What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Viall Files Update Special Edition. I am your host, Nick, joined by the household of Leia, Scooter, sorry.
There we go. Scoots, Magoots.
Sweet boy Justin, and we got Allie here as well. What's going on? What's new?
Recovering from Coachella still.
Are you?
Yeah. I went to sleep at 8 p.m. the other day.
Wow.
No dinner. I was like, you know what? Let's just catch up.
You skipped dinner?
Yeah, it wasn't worth it that
How
night.
late were you guys? Did you guys like party all weekend?
No. No.
No.
No.
Definitely not. Did you?
No. I mean,
You partied more than we did.
I was probably up later.
True.
I wouldn't know if I partied.
What's the earliest time you went to bed this week?
Yeah, unfortunately now it's just different with River, like 10:30, 11 by the time we feed her and get all the things done that we need to get done.
That's a decent time.
Yeah, we usually go to bed at like 10 to 9:30.
Oh, wow.
We're hoping that we can start sleep training River soonish. Anyways, what's going on?
So back by popular demand, since we did just get back from Coachella, we thought that we could resurface the thirst trap conversation and take a look at some of the pictures that we took and posted to see if they're thirst traps or not. Justin has the slideshow. For those of you listening, we are going to describe the pictures as best as we can.
Oh.
Okay, so this first one is a picture
Just Justin's nipples.
of Justin wearing a sheer tank.
Is it weird that I knew it was Justin's nipples?
Who else could that be? It's not me.
I'm going to defend myself on this one, by the way, but...
So it's a picture of Justin.
Why do you have to defend yourself?
Do we think it's a thirst trap?
He's wearing a mesh tank top.
This is the photo.
That is see-through, and you basically see his whole chest.
Well, the question is the photo, that was his Coachella outfit. So this is going to be a harder one because Coachella is it's like Halloween, It's just like
in the desert, we have to wear less clothes.
You're supposed to be a little slutty,
Right, you get a pass.
Yeah, but didn't we conclude for Justin's other thirst traps that it was mostly because he cut off his head, so it was like just like thirsting with his body?
No, but that made it art.
Did you post this? This is a selfie you took and you posted it?
I did post it, but the reason I don't think it's a thirst trap, there's two reasons.
This is definitely a first.
It's not a thirst trap. There's two reasons.
It's like, look at my dick.
The first reason is Leia helped me post this. So there were other options. There were other options, and I was like, Leia, which one do we think?
You showed me two options that looked exactly the same. They were both of you in a see-through shirt, and it was just your chest with a butterfly tattoo showing through.
And your pants undone.
No, that was out of comfort, not suggestive nature.
Anyway, he showed me two different pictures that looked pretty much identical. The only difference was like maybe this one was a little more diagonal.
Justin, I understand your plight. I know what it's like to feel like you just got up and got dressed and the internet thinks you're trying to post a thirst trap and you're just being your natural self. I understand your plight. I know what it's like to look so hot that the internet thinks that that the internet must be thinking you're thirsty, but maybe you're just, you woke up like this, but this is a thirst trap.
Here's my second defense. I posted one photo, but I sent my partner the other 20. And I sent him them before I posted them because I was like, I'm posting this. And I didn't have to explain myself. He didn't want a defense. I was just like, here's the background shots, the BTS. Posted this.
It's a thirst trap.
Here's the aesthetic.
If I were to post this photo, what would it be?
Well, I think you're in a relationship, so it'd be like...
You're in a relationship.
I know. And it's art.
It's art. Okay.
Yeah.
All
right. So Justin's going to die on this hill that this is art and not a thirst trap, even though it is a thirst trap.
Even though his pants are undone.
And he's naked.
Comfort.
The photo says the art, does the art have a name? Like this piece is called.
Oh.
This is giving neon.
This piece is called "Look at My Dick."
Neon butterfly.
No, literally the pants are undone. You're going.
Someone did DM me and they said thirst trap. So
okay,
but I didn't agree. Okay.
It's a picture of Natalie bending over a bit and sticking her tongue out.
No, it's definitely not a thirst trap. Also, you have to consider one's range.
So because she has more thirsty of the thirst traps, this is not qualifying.
Well, I wouldn't call her thirsty, but her range is one that this is her just being cute fun girl. This is like mom's first time out after having a baby, and I'm just excited.
Okay.
And yes, again, this given Natalie's range, this is public television.
PG.
Yeah.
What if she was holding a strawberry and licking it though? Because I did the tongue out with my strawberry thirst trap, and everybody clocked me on that.
You look like you were trying to fuck a strawberry.
Well, well, okay.
This is not a thirst trap. This is goofy,
Having fun.
cute,
having
goofy. Having fun.
There's no seductive look there. You can't even see her eyes.
Good point. Okay.
Allison is taking a mirror selfie.
That's a bit thirst trappy. That she's given the
Seductive eyes, right?
yeah, she is.
Okay.
Yeah,
She's giving eyes.
She's puckering the lips just a bit.
Yeah. I will say, every single time I've ever posted a mirror selfie, it's been a thirst trap.
Yeah.
You try to
Yeah,
like.
it's
It's because you're
the only purpose is like look, I look good in this moment.
Yeah.
There's no she's literally in a bathroom.
Well, you're in your bathroom. You can be private. Take some layers off if you need to.
Nobody's looking at you. You
Layers
can,
on?
If
How
you
many
need to.
layers are you wearing?
Socks. I don't know.
But
You got
this is definitely
Socks. Okay, guys, you're in the bathroom taking a selfie. You can take your socks off.
this is a gateway thirst trap.
What's a gateway thirst trap?
Well, like a gateway drug. You know, it's like it's certainly fully clothed. You know, it's not that seductive. But a thirst trap, it's like you give the internet what they want. They ask for more. You're like, okay, I'll take my shirt off next time. You know, I'll undo my pants.
You put a poll. You're like sock, shirt, or pants.
Yeah.
next.
It's like baby steps.
Okay. All right. Gateway thirst trap. Allison's
Gateway thirst trap.
This is Allie's. Allie is turned
This
around.
is Allie's? Leia looks like she wants to fuck in this photo.
I look crazy.
This
but
is Allie's thirst trap. She's turned around with
Leia,
her
you
butt.
kind of look like I just fucked.
that's why she's pregnant.
It's my baby.
This is not
I'm
an
pregnant
Allie
with my
thirst trap.
baby.
It could be literally anyone.
There are bullseyes on Allie's butt.
They're stars.
Those are, some would say that's a bullseye.
Justin, you look faded.
I was not faded, but I do look faded.
This is a Leia thirst trap.
Okay, plot twist.
Hot take.
It's that face you're making, Leia.
What am I doing? This is better than the scooter photo.
She's improving.
Well, no, nothing would be better than the scooter photo.
She's walking this time.
You look like trouble. Anytime you like give a face of trouble, it's a thirst trap.
Okay. I just got to say,
How is this a
you
thirst
took
trap?
no pictures at Coachella.
I was just dad mode.
This
you
is
know?
the only picture you posted that was anything close to a thirst trap.
Just got the guns out. I'm in my dad era, you know?
It's a
Like
good photo.
I don't take photos unless I have to. Or they're taken of
I
me.
disagree on that. The amount of photos I've seen of you doing like with that rap thing.
Mm,
Oh,
yes.
Now that's a thirst
Love
trap.
to show off the river and the
that's a
rap.
thirst trap.
River in the Rap is a
You don't
thirst
think so?
trap. I think so. It's a
I mean,
mirror.
he's shirtless.
Maybe.
It gets the ovaries going, you know?
Any picture you take in a mirror is a thirst trap. Automatically.
No, I would agree.
Automatically. If you're posting a mirror selfie, it's a.
What if I'm in like the changing room of like a clothing store?
Are you posting that online or sending it to your mom?
Intent doesn't matter.
Okay.
You keep arguing intent.
Yeah, because I think intent's important.
I shouldn't say intent doesn't matter. Intent isn't the only variable. You cannot have the intent of a thirst trap and it can still be a thirst trap.
Okay.
Like Leia, I don't know what she was thinking in that moment, but turned out
All right, next.
Okay. This is Kyle.
This is Kyle. This is my favorite photo. This is a picture of Kyle in
you guys had a nice pool.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
a nice pool.
Yeah.
In our pool, trying to get into a floaty, but he's not wearing a shirt and he's laying in a very seductive way, but he's also, his face is screaming, I'm falling off this raft.
Yeah.
His face is, and it looks like it's. He looks like he hasn't taken off his shirt in 3 years.
Because he's pale or what? I did tell him to put sunscreen on. So
I think he did.
he did eventually.
Thirst trap for sure. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Well,
sure.
Here's a couple's thirst trap.
What
This
does a
is a-
couple's thirst trap look like?
Well, this is a picture of Nick and Natalie.
Yeah.
And they're both looking seductive at the camera.
I look stoned.
Could you not be both?
there you go.
You could be.
Because Justin keeps arguing it's art, but I could argue a really good thirst trap could also be art. They're not mutually exclusive.
I don't know if a couple's thirst trap exists.
I don't
I
know.
think it
I think it
does.
does. I think this is a
What about
couple's
the
thirst
one that
trap.
you have as your phone screensaver?
Oh, the one I used to have was my phone screensaver.
Mm.
Still not a thirst trap. I mean, if it's a thirst trap for Natalie, that's art. That's literally art. We have it hung in the bedroom.
I mean, you guys are giving like hot couple in this, so
yeah,
that's the
I think
thirst, right?
I think it's possible to post a couple's thirst
But-
trap
but-
if you
but-
guys
but-
are both
but
looking.
to whom? Like a
Well,
swingers?
I
Like,
guess it's the same thing as like posting a thirst trap of yourself when you're in a relationship. It's like, who are you posting this for? It's the same thing to post a couple's thirst trap. Who are you posting this for?
I agree. I rest my case.
no.
I stand by couple's thirst trap.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
But thirsty doesn't mean like sexual desire. It could just mean like, oh, they're hot,
We look hot.
right? And you guys
I
look
can't
hot.
help that we look hot in every photo.
Now we're getting into nuance. This is like thirst trap court of law.
I don't think this is a thirst trap
Okay.
at all.
All right. Agree
Yeah.
to disagree. Okay.
Thirst trap.
Every time mine comes up, Nick loses his shit. This is a picture of me
I took this
in
one.
front of a pool
High fashion.
licking a popsicle.
It is high fashion. I agree with that. This is art as well, but also thirsty.
Nick! Why? Every single time.
Are you trying to be sexy in this photo, or is this just an accident?
Whoa.
She is being sexy, right?
It's a sexy photo.
Yeah, I agree.
I was trying to be funny.
Well,
I also tried getting her to hop in the pool after this, but she wouldn't.
I was trying to be funny.
It's a pretty good photo. It's a great photo.
She is licking another fruity object. So I had a strawberry. Now she has a watermelon popsicle.
To be fair though, Justin, I saw a lot of feedback about you saying like it's a juicy strawberry, and people were like,
You
I
didn't
looked
eat
at the
it?
strawberry. He hadn't even taken a bite.
It was
At
a
least
full
Leia
strawberry.
had
That
licked
is
the
true.
popsicle.
That is true.
This is like the Natalie picture, sticking her tongue out.
Art. This is art.
Agreed.
Okay,
I agree.
Fine.
Yeah.
Here's Ciara. She's looking down with her sunglasses like half off, and her mouth is open.
Thirst trap.
Thirst trap.
Yeah.
If your mouth is open, it's a thirst trap.
This
Yeah.
could also be mid-orgasm.
Mid orgasm.
I hope that's not the orgasm face.
Right. But like, I don't know.
This is, I think, the last one.
Oh,
Here's Derek.
definitely a thirst trap for sure.
Derek has his cowboy hat on, his arms crossed, and he's looking at the camera with his eyebrows
Zaddy.
creased.
Zaddy, yeah.
Yeah.
Zaddy.
All right,
Thirst trap.
thirst trap.
Yeah. All right.
There we go.
Case closed.
So basically, we all had thirst traps except for you, Natalie.
Well, mine apparently went to Leia. Leia had 2 and I had none.
No, mine was art. All right, well, that concludes our
What's your attachment
Coachella
style?
first. My attachment style is secure.
Of course.
Secure attachment.
Of course.
Why, of course.
Are you in a secure attachment?
Mine was
too?
secure, but I also don't agree with attachment styles.
Yeah.
So
Why not?
I think they're like attachment styles are based on what we expect perspectives of relationships to be, and like the test that you sent was based off of the partner's position within it. I just think it's a flawed idea in my perspective.
A lot of it has to do with your upbringing as well.
Yeah, I think it's just I kind of agree with Justin. I think there's value in understanding it to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of things when we come up with like when we talk boundaries and everyone, people misunderstand like, the whole like boundary is something you set with yourself and enforce with other people. Like I find that a lot of people like to find out what their partner's attachment style is to justify their actions or behaviors. It's like, oh, they're this. And so I think it's a data point that offers people to make excuses for either themselves or their partners. It's like, well, I can't help myself. I'm
an avoidant
true. I'm
I'm an
attachment.
avoidant attachment or
We get a lot of calls too of people being like, well, he doesn't want to talk about it, but he's also like an avoidant
Yeah.
person. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I
It's
do want to read the definitions real quick. So, according to the Attachment Project, anxious attachment is adults with an anxious attachment style tend to have a negative self-view but a positive view of others. They deeply fear abandonment. Then there's avoidant, which is also referred to as dismissive. People with avoidant, dismissive attachment style tend to have a positive self-view and negative one of others. They do not want to depend on others, have others depend on them, or seek support and approval in social bonds. There's disorganized. People with the disorganized attachment style tend to vacillate between the traits of both anxious and avoidant. And then there's secure. A person is comfortable expressing emotions openly. Therefore, adults with a secure attachment style can depend on their partners and in turn let their partners rely on them.
yeah. I don't know.
I agree with what you said earlier, where it's like a lot of people will use attachment style as like an excuse for their actions sometimes.
I feel like all the internet has done is give us new ways to explain already pre-existing things. Like
Mhm.
therapists have been talking about like fear of abandonment for a long time,
Right.
And so like, I don't know, like I'm not, I think it can have its place, but I think anything that we're talking about, like in terms of like terminology or like relationship definitions that like are post TikTok, I'm very eye rolly over
What would you say your attachment style is?
obviously secure. I'm kidding, but like, I mean, I'm comfortable expressing my emotions and vulnerability and things like that. But I do know that I have some abandonment issues, and things like that in terms of from like past relationships or, a fear of abandonment, and things like that. But does that mean I'm not, I don't know. So I always think it's good to understand yourself. It's good to understand your partner. But I think often people don't learn this information to understand themselves necessarily better or their partners. I think they use it to justify their actions or their partner's actions a little bit more. It's just like, well, they're like you just said, well, they're this, and that's why they do that. And like, it's a way to make excuses for ourselves or our partners rather than to hold ourselves or our partners accountable. It's like, well, if we can identify that they're some sort of attachment style, to understand something doesn't justify something. And I think people often confuse those things. Even when we're talking about a relationship or even when we're on a reality recap, when we're talking about characters on a TV show, when we're talking Scandival, like I can sit there and empathize and understand maybe the state of mind that Tom or Rachel might have been in. And I can articulate that, it doesn't mean I agree with their actions, so putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding why they did what they did or thought what they thought in a certain time isn't justifying it, it's understanding it. And I think sometimes people will confuse the two,
Absolutely.
and then but they will sometimes will try to justify it when all they should maybe do is understand it. What do you do with that information? So, and I feel like attachment styles very much goes into that bucket. Of how we use that information.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's very interesting. It's basically like if you share, your past relationships with your partner and like, this person, broke up with me out of nowhere, or like also your family, my dad left when I was 8. All these things can impact the way that you are in a relationship, but that's more just like understanding where the person comes from and why they act the way they do, rather than that person using that as an excuse or reason to then abandon their partner or like.
Yeah, for example, like I think Nan and I both have on some levels like abandonment issues, right? So there are times where I will say something to her or vice versa, and we will trigger the other person. And our instant first reaction is to be like, why are you acting this way? But since we both understand that both of us have some sort of like abandonment issues, like we can recognize that and then again, not necessarily agree with how they're reacting, but then understand this is a trigger for you.
Yeah.
And again, being triggered isn't an excuse to be, well, anything, Another example, like we love to use the word, well, I'm triggered. Okay, sure. But being triggered doesn't give you the right to do whatever, it doesn't give you a right to necessarily overreact. It doesn't always give you the right to
repeat the pattern.
It might just be you recognizing that like this is a trigger that you need to deal with so that the next time you're in a certain situation, you don't act a certain way.
Yeah.
But nowadays we just like, well, I'm triggered, as if it's like a free pass to be an asshole or to be an emotional terrorist or just unreliable or just super reactive. Like maybe that's a you problem.
Yeah.
That's
a good point, because I think attachment styles usually imply like a sense of permanency. Like that's who that person is, versus a lot of the questions within attachment style quizzes are situational. So it's kind of like, has your partner ever said anything that hurt your feelings? Like, have you confronted your partner in a week? Like to me, like those questions to me are like, okay, well that's not, yeah. There's no need to label it.
Yeah. And then a lot of it too stems back to like your parents. So like, is your father in your life? Like, did you feel comfortable going to him with problems? I think that the important thing about attachment styles or knowing like you or your partner's past is to learn like that about yourself, recognize it, and then like try to,
So like how to better interact with him.
Yeah.
But,
rather than to use it as an excuse for repeating the pattern.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, we got some great updates for you. We're excited to share them with you. And if you are thirsting for more updates, don't forget that we have plenty more episodes of update specials behind Viall Files Plus, which is available for you now. Just go to viallfiles.com. It is free to sign up. And I think we're getting 30-some episodes of update specials, plus our Vanderpump recaps or pop extra episodes. A lot available for you behind Viall Files Plus. So check it out for free. It's free to sign up. Just go to viallfiles.com and there's a tab to sign up for Viall Files Plus. Anything else before we get to our updates? All right. Well, these are some good ones. Let's go.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
Welcome back, Nell, and welcome to the first time to the show, Nell's husband, Jasper. Nell originally called in because your parents were diagnosing your son left and right, so to speak. And we had a good conversation. I don't know if it was I had some direct feedback about your inability to set boundaries with your parents. I remember saying that's nuts a couple times on the call. What was that? What was it a reference to? Do you probably remember?
I do. I think some of the things that they were critical of you thought was nuts.
Oh, yeah, and I know what it was. I said anytime you have to ask your parents to do, like, you shouldn't have to ask your parents to respect your. I mean, yes, obviously we want to ask people to respect our boundaries, but like, you don't need to. That's what it was. You don't need to ask your parents permission for how to raise your kids. I think that was the major takeaway. And you were. It was like, please, can you do this? Please, please, please. It's just like, this is your fucking kid.
My parents, they diagnosed my 16-month-old son with something new every time they see him. So this last time was ADD. He just started walking. Before, he needed to go to physical therapy because he wasn't walking.
Neither of them are in any position whatsoever to diagnose people.
No, not at all.
You're the parent. It's your kid. And you might have to have a couple tough conversations with them. You can either respect my wishes, my boundaries, or you cannot. But, you know, I love you. But if you can't respect how I want to parent my kid, if you can't respect my wishes, I'm a 40-year-old woman, then you can't be around here. Anyways, I'm curious, Lars, what did you think of the call? I'm sure you heard it. Were you singing our praises?
Yeah, I was, definitely. I heard the call. I was very proud of everything that Nell was doing, for sure.
Amazing. All right. So what can we help you with out today? Or do we have an update? Is there an update? Is there anything I can help you out with in addition to what we did before?
Yeah, so there is a little update. And the reason I wanted to bring my husband, I figure even though this situation impacts us differently, it does impact us equally because our son is both of ours. And so just to make sure that whatever I'm doing is enough, and if there's anything that I can be doing additional, then I want his perspective on that. But basically, my biggest takeaway, you were very clear that I wasn't setting any boundaries, which you were totally right about. And I appreciated that. You also drew my attention to the fact that I asked them questions. Please, could you not do this? Instead of just making declarative statements and saying, hey, don't do this, which I think really indicates a lot of my dynamic with my parents that I think is old, that I can get rid of because now I'm tasked with raising a child and we're the ones in control. You also told us that. And you mentioned a couple times that I kept on saying how scared I was to talk to them, which is so true. I don't know if you picked up on that, but I am.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. For sure. And it's funny. We have like this agreement that outside of like, our child being abused, she sets boundaries with her family. I deal with the boundaries with my family. And so when it actually happened, I was kind of just sitting there, like nodding my head with like this awkward grin on my face, just watching everything go down.
You mean when you were setting the boundary with your parents?
Well, initially, yes, before I called in. And then since we have had a conversation and it was the same expression on his face where he was just nodding, watching it all unfold. So initially, I wrote a letter and I didn't share it with them. It was just a way for me to clarify my thoughts, which was really helpful. And since then, just having the validation that some of the things that were going on, they were really inappropriate, that gave me a lot of confidence. And I think that just my energy in dealing with them has changed. And I did have a direct conversation, specifically with my dad, and he reacted very sensitively. He said that he heard that I was leveraging our child and saying that basically, if he said anything that we didn't like, that I wouldn't let him see his grandson. And I apologize that that's what he took away from what I said, but that in no way am I ever going to do that.
Wait, hold on, back up. So when in this conversation, you're saying this conversation you had with your parents and specifically your dad, you wrote this letter to try to get your thoughts out. Then you had to sit down, and his big takeaway is I'm hearing that like a threat. Like you're saying that if I don't, let's just use our language, respect this boundary you're setting, you won't let me, see my grandkid. And he said he tried to victimize himself, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
Because the answer is, yeah, you're right. If you don't do this, I won't. But this isn't a big request, so stop doing it. Well, that's the thing too. It's just like, I mean, in reality, right? Like, eventually, it could come to that. To your point, you don't want it to, right? Obviously, you're coming to them in the spirit of like, well, all I really want is for you guys to respect us as parents, and then that we're going to raise our kid how we want to raise our kid, and we are requesting you guys to not do this. I think it's, to me, that's him further throwing a temper tantrum. That's him losing control. He's going to the extreme. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Instead of being like, well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. We'll definitely try to work on that. And certainly, we understand what you're saying. And like, if we say something that upsets you, like, obviously this might be an adjustment for us, but we'll do our best to respect your wishes. Like that's the obvious answer. But instead it was like, how could you, like, you're threatening us, but that's, again,
that's how it felt to me.
Sure.
What was it like for you?
But think
Yeah,
about
for
it.
sure.
That's like him. Your parents clearly are not people who are used to losing control of you. And this is a conversation about you saying, hey, there's a new sheriff and there's a new normal, and that's clearly going to be an adjustment for them. So to me, his reaction was basically par for the course. I mean, not unexpected, right? I mean, the way you described your parents.
It wasn't unexpected.
Yeah.
It made me sad that after all of what we've gone through in our years together, that he actually thinks that I would do that and withhold his grandson from him, which I would never do. I guess unless it was an extreme situation,
theory,
which I don't
yeah.
anticipate. So that was really sad for me. And I think that he's really sensitive. And he, like you said, he selfishly made it about him. And I'm glad that I apologized for what he heard, but I didn't apologize for the boundary.
Well, that's good. And I don't think your parents actually think that either. I think he's being manipulative. And, you know what I mean?
Towards the end of the conversation, though, it seemed like he did come around.
Okay, that's
right?
good.
I mean, right or no?
Yeah, we haven't seen them a lot since that conversation.
Yeah, I guess
so
that's
I don't
true.
know.
That's true.
And not by your choice, right? Like, by the guy who's like, oh, you're going to take our grandkid away from us, and they're the ones who haven't reached out. It's like, holy shit. And that's what I mean. It's just like that. And when I say he's being manipulative, I don't think every time we're manipulative, it's like some sort of like premeditated plan. Like, I don't think your dad is listening to what you're saying and saying, well, what's the best way to manipulate my daughter into getting the way I want? I don't think he's having like a conscious thought. I think as a parent, he is used to being in control of the relationship that you guys have, and I think as people, when we lose control of situations, we try to gain control by manipulating, by coming up with bullshit reasons that justify how we feel and our feelings that, to maintain control. So I think your dad reacting that way was really just kind of expected and par for the course. And did you maintain kind of your calmness in that? I hope.
I mean, I was sweating profusely. I did. And I really love my dad. And I think everything you're saying is right. I know that my husband would agree that my parents, they grapple with issues of control.
Oh,
yeah. They do. So none of that is wrong. And I think that I was able to maintain my composure. I didn't get emotional. I didn't get upset. And we did see them one other time, and he mentioned, I don't know if you remember, but before he was really critical of our son not walking, and then he was walking bow-legged, as toddlers do. And he mentioned, he's like, oh, I think his walking is a little bit better. And my initial reaction would be to get really triggered, because that felt like a subtle criticism, and I just let it go. And so that's, I think, the most helpful part of our conversation, is that it really did allow me to remember that my husband and I are the ones who are in control, and anything else is an additional blessing in our son's life or not. but that he and I are the ones making the decision.
Well, that's good. That's because that's probably the best takeaway you can have, because ultimately your parents are going to do what they do. But when you first called in, it was pretty clear that your parents had a pretty impact. It was pretty clear that your parents had a big impact on your mood and how you valued yourself as an individual and as a mom. And they were pretty good at getting under your skin and impacting, your choices and making you question yourself and all those things. So your ability to limit that is really the main thing. And so you having confidence that, you and Lars are the primary caregivers, and all that really matters is what you want. And any impact, any input you get or advice that, you find helpful, great. If your parents say something, you're like, oh, maybe we should look into that. That seems healthy. But as opposed to nitpicking, I'm still bow-legged. I was a D1 track star. I was ranked nationally. So I don't think being bow-legged is all that bad, but it sounds like you're on the right path. As long as you see it now, the importance of letting your parents just do their thing. The big question is like, it's kind of like using the relationship analogy when people ask, like, should I block them? And I'm not saying you should block your parents, so bear with me. But like, I always tell people, like, well, you don't block someone to get a reaction. You block someone, to protect your mental health. You block them because they get under your skin, or, every time they reach out, you can't help but respond. And like, that's not helping someone move on. Obviously you're not going to block your parents, assuming they don't go totally rogue, but your ability to limit their control over you and how they impact your mood and your behavior that's what it's all about. Because you can't control your parents and what they do. And ultimately you're right. Unless there's an extreme circumstance, you're not going to stop them from wanting to be grandparents. You just have to stop them for having such an impact in how you feel about yourself as a parent.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And if it's taken my entire childhood and adult life until the moment when I became a mother to make that distinction and to realize that, then I'm just grateful that it happened. You're right. I have given my parents a lot of control over my self-esteem. And once we kind of reframed it where it's not about me, it's about my husband and my son too, then that was what did it for me, because I always want to protect them. And it's not fair to Lars.
Well, and I think, we all project, right? We all project people. I would imagine parents project onto their kids a lot too. And, it probably all comes from some place of love, even if it's toxic, childhood, we pass our childhood trauma down from generation, I think, there's probably a lot of literature on that. So, hopefully you're stopping the cycle, because your parents, maybe they got nitpicked by their parents, it was their parents who are always pointing little things out about them. And, in the back of their mind, this is how they were raised, so they're doing it to you. So if nothing else, maybe more importantly, you're learning how not to treat your children when they get older. Probably something really important for you to remember. Right now, you're not thinking about that. But eventually, as people keep telling me, and I'm sure the people are telling you, oh, it goes fast. They grew up so fast. And eventually, it probably will be fast. And we'll have to remember, not to nitpick our children, in a way that, maybe it was done to us.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder. And Monday is going to be our big test, because it's Passover and we're having my parents over for dinner. And last year, I guess our son was, remember that, was 6 months old. And my stepmom gave him Manischewitz, which is basically sugar wine. And he was 6 months. He should not be drinking alcohol or consuming sugar. Yeah. And she didn't ask our permission, and he saw red. And that was really when all of this started.
Did you say
because
something?
Of the Manischewitz. Yeah. So now we'll see how I do.
Did you say something? You did.
She said something. I didn't. I was dealing with the brisket and kind of looked at her and was like, hey, you got to deal with this, or I'm about to deal with it.
And do you guys, I know you kind of mentioned like Lars deals with his parents and you deal with yours. At some point, it doesn't always have to be that way. I think it's great for the most part, like, I mean, I think Nally and I are really lucky with our in-laws, but like, if it came to it, like, Nally would have every right to say something to my parents if need be, and vice versa. I don't think it's like Lars would be incapable of saying something. And so in those types of situations where it's it's literally like someone's giving your kid something that you don't even think is healthy for them, then that's, I often wonder, I'm curious how your parents would react to Lars coming down pretty hard on mom and dad.
What do you think?
I don't know. I see in my family, we're very direct. I mean, I can look at my mom and say, hey, don't fucking do that. And she's going to know that 10 minutes later, we're fine and everything is good. And I don't think that.
What if you took the fuck out?
I could take the fuck out. It depends on how angry I get, but
you would traumatize him.
Well, I have a great relationship with my in-laws, still learning how to communicate with them a little differently than the way my family communicates.
That makes sense. And good on you, but it's not a one-way street, I guess is what I'm saying. Because you're just always thinking, well, I have to learn how to communicate with Nell's parents. Well, Nell's parents have to learn how to communicate with the two of you as well. And I think that is important. Yeah, granted, like, you don't want to like necessarily yell at them, per se, but like we are dealing with a situation that, again, according to Nell, sounds like her parents have had this power over her. They were a little manipulative. Sure, I'm sure your dad is sensitive, but I haven't met a sensitive parent that isn't super manipulative. It's, I'm so sensitive. Again, like they play the victim clearly when they want to. That seems pretty obvious when it comes to your parents now. I don't think some direct feedback from Lars would cripple the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he might be a little upset. He might feel a little embarrassed, but like, that's because your parents are so used to you now not saying anything. Your parents are used to like operating with impunity and saying whatever they want, when they want it. The fact that they had no problem feeding your 6-month-old son this thing means that like they think they can do what they want. And maybe a little direct feedback from Lars of like, don't do that. Even if it does kind of hurt your dad's feelings, might be good. And like, listen, he'll be fine. Yeah, he doesn't have the shorthand Lars that you have with your parents, but like man to man, you could be like, hey man, like I'm sorry I had to do that. I'm sorry, but like at the end of the day, like that was like, please do not do that. Like you don't have the right to, as grandparents to give our kid whatever they want. It's important you guys ask our permission. I think it's way, way more important that your parents understand that than it is important that you never hurt their feelings. Feelings are meant to be hurt sometimes. They can always apologize, and again, not apologizing for saying something, but hey, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt, but like, hey, next time don't do that. But when your parents cross a boundary, whether you communicate that boundary or not, or it's an obvious boundary, like, hey, don't give my kid alcohol, then you have the right to say something. And even if that means their feelings are hurt, and your parents hurt feelings now, you can tell, like, it probably makes you anxious just to think the idea of hurting your parents' feelings. They'll live, they'll be fine. And they might stomp their feet and kick and scream, and they might act, and the fact that you haven't hurt for your parents, like, again, manipulation, like they know, their parent, how old are you now?
40.
That 40 years of knowing how to control you. Your parents have that. It's like, that's their shorthand. And I just think this is going to be an adjustment for them. So I think it's really important you're not being so afraid to hurt their feelings. In fact, I think hurting their feelings is a sign of progress, because it clearly you're saying something that's new to them. That you are saying something that they're like, okay, this is different. And that means they're hearing you. That means, and again, it's respectful and not respectful. Like, obviously, you guys know that if Lars were to scream and be like, don't ever fucking do that again, or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course, that would be an overreaction. But respectfully, Dad, don't do that again. If, do not ever give little Max or whatever your kid's name is, that without our permission. And I have, you guys should have no problem saying that to either of your parents, and I don't think it has to come, well, Lars, it's got to be from your parents and vice versa. And honestly, if Lars, you being so good at direct feedback, I think you can really help out Nell in situations where she struggles. You guys are a team, so be a team even when you're interacting with your in-laws.
I like that.
That's my 2 cents.
I'll get ready for Monday night. Also, his name is Max, so that was extremely impressive.
Really?
Yeah, you just pulled Max out of nowhere.
Incredible. I love that. Yeah, I think you guys support each other. You know, it's like, and Nell, you're gonna have to be. I suspect you're gonna have to let him do his thing. You know, because when the moment Lars says, "Don't ever do that again," you're gonna get real uncomfy. But it's all for the best.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I'm realizing that a lot of old wounds that I thought were healed, they open back up when you have a kid. And so I have more work to do on that front.
Yeah. Your parents' feelings are going to be just fine. And I suspect your dad's sensitivity is a little overblown.
We'll find out on Monday.
Yeah, we will.
I'm sure there'll be something.
And we just found out like the day after I talked with you the first time that we're having another kid. So I think that it's really important to establish these things before we add another little one into the mix.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if your mom and dad do try something.
Yeah, well, it goes like to what you were saying, you know, about changing the dynamic. I mean, our goal is to teach our son what not to do or how to act. And the only way to do that is by doing it ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is all great for you now. I like the idea of you guys being more of a team when it comes to interacting with both sets of parents. I know in a lot of situations when it comes to in-laws, it's like, hey man, like talk to your parents, man. I don't think this is what I mean by that, if that makes any sense. Because how you guys you guys are a team and they shouldn't be able to play off of each other. And if you struggle with some kind of communication now, and that's a strength of Lars, you should lean into that. He's your partner, you know? I'm sure there are areas in which you are better at communicating than Lars, you know, or you might have more nuance than Lars, or where your strengths might be a benefit to Lars. So when that happens, you can be the one who steps up. But when you have a hard time and he's good at something that you're not, let him do the thing that you're not, you know? Because it's both of your children. You guys are married. It's just as much Lars, you know, he's the father. They're the grandparents. Lars doesn't have less of a say about his own, you know what I'm saying? Because like, it's funny because like with our kid, you know, early on, like a lot of people are saying like River looks like me. And like now, you know, I always kind of joking around, there's a lot of in-laws like staking their claim, you know, it's like, oh, she looks like that. Like, it's like, you know, whatever. And that's all anecdotally like fun and whatever. I guess what I'm saying, as far as Nallie's mom is concerned, you know, she has her own identity to River, you know, as it's her first grandchild. You know, and so Nallie's mom is incredibly respectful to us as parents, but not all parents are like that, you know? And I can see some grandparents almost, you know, overvaluing their connection to their grandchildren so much so that like, yeah, it's like whoever their kids are, it's just like, well, that's your kid. But especially if they don't like who their kids are married to, they might respect their authority as grandparents more than they respect, you know, their kids' partners, you know, their kids' partners as parents. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I do think it's sometimes good that Lars would say something to your parents in this situation to remind them that I'm the dad here and this is my kid, you know, because I think it's nuts that your mom thought it was okay to do that. Because not only did they not, you know, because again, for you, Nell, it makes sense, right? It makes sense that they are used to, and I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. It made sense that your parents would do that because your whole life, your parents have kind of like saw you as their kid and like they know best. Well, like, you know, the fact that they still did that even when when Lars was there, you know, means to tell me that they see Lars the same way they see you, right?
Yeah. And
to me, that's almost more fucked up. It's like they came in to some dad's house and didn't get his permission. You know what I'm saying? They thought, well, as long as Nell's okay with this, then I can do this. It's like, holy shit, she's only one half of the equation. And that's kind of fucking crazy. So
You're
honestly,
getting me all fired up for Monday, man.
I know. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, no problem, man. No, I think it's nuts. I think it's nuts that they didn't consider what Lars would think about this. It wasn't even on the register. So I'm big team Lars speaking up next time this happens.
Me too.
Hell yeah.
But I also will work on my direct communication because I do have a lot of room for growth in that area. So even if he is going to communicate with my parents, it doesn't mean that I won't.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think he takes over, but I think right now it's only you guys have this kind of like, well, it's my parents and I'll do this and you do that.
Yeah.
And I think hearing from Lars might help you. Yeah.
Let's do it.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's we seem to also like I think people were very passionate about the parent-child dynamic. It's a fun topic. People are often very triggered by it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that people are very sensitive to not disrespect parents, as I think is appropriate, but then there's gray area within that. And you also don't want to relinquish your control to somebody else when it's your child. So it's hard to figure out how to maneuver around those things sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people also like misunderstand sometimes the things I say too. To me, it's a case by case basis. Like, yeah, I've said a lot too. I think it's important to be grateful and respectful of our parents, right? To a certain degree, your parents, despite my criticism of them of being manipulative and things like that, did the best they could, right? And maybe again, like I said, they're a product of their own parents. So you can still have empathy for your parents for why they are the way they are, while still be willing to say, you know what? No, that's okay. Again, it's like, it's understanding the difference between, empathizing and understanding why they do what they do is not the same as justifying their actions, So, I just think, yeah, I think our parents should have almost unlimited grace unless what they're doing is dangerous or hurtful in some way, right? Because they're doing the best they can, but that doesn't mean you don't have the right to say no. It doesn't mean you don't have the right to set new boundaries with them. It doesn't mean you don't have the right to change the dynamic of the relationship from what you might think is not necessarily the healthiest relationship to one that you hope to be more healthy. And so you can have both. You can both have an understanding that maybe our parents are just doing the best that they can while still be willing to push back, appropriately. I just see a lot of like, resentment with, it's like there's this whole community, if you have a toxic relationship with your parents sometimes, and then you can obviously find community out there with other people who have toxic relationship with their parents. And there's just a lot of resentment and a lot of anger and a lot of hurt and a lot of kind of like, I don't know, kind of just giving up on your parents. In those cases, when possible, maybe there's a middle ground. It's always nuanced. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. I really enjoyed the update. I'd love one update if there is one after Monday. But yeah, this is obviously going to be a progress for you guys, and I'm really hopeful that with some just kind of gentle boundary setting with your parents, and the occasional like Lars being like, "Hey guys, you know what? I know Nell's asked you, but like." You need to start respecting our wishes. And maybe it gets to the point where you're just like, stop feeling sorry for yourself, Dad. When he gives you the whole like, oh, you're weaponizing. It's like, no, we're not. We're not. And just don't, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't even like acknowledge his pity that he plays. It's like, you're being ridiculous. That's not what we're saying. You're an adult. You understand what we're saying. So just act like it.
Yeah, that gets to be yours.
Works for me.
They'll come around.
I'll leave the curse words out of it.
Yeah. And you just, again, like you sandwich it with love. We love you. We love you as grandparents. We appreciate you. We obviously want you to be in our kids' lives, but you need to respect our wishes. It's that simple. It's not complicated. So stop feeling sorry for yourselves.
All right. Well, we will let you know if Monday is explosive, but I really think that
Lars is jacked. Yeah. He's ready to go.
We've rounded
I'm ready
a corner.
to rock and roll. Yeah.
No Manischewitz for him this time.
I mean, that's nuts. That's really nuts. It's crazy. I'm lucky to have Natalie's mom as. I don't know how Natalie and I got that lucky, where we just have both these parents who are just like, we're just here to help. We don't want to step on your toes. Do your thing.
Oh, that must be nice.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't know. How many siblings do you have now?
I have 2 and he has 2.
Yeah, I have 2.
What is your siblings' relationship like with your parents?
So I have a very LA family. I have 4 parents and 2 siblings who aren't related to each other. So my dad and my stepmom have 1 son, And that was a really helpful part of our conversation, the one that I had with you as well, because I always feel like I need to protect my brother. And I shared with him everything that I was feeling. It was very direct. He was really upset that that was happening. And it was wonderful. It was really nice to just have that honest conversation with him too.
Nice. All right. Well, have fun on Monday.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. We appreciate the update.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you all so much.
All
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Oh, thank
likewise.
you,
Thank
yeah.
you.
All right. We'll see you
All right.
later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
great
Bye.
weekend, guys.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. What a first update. Wow. It's always good to hear from our callers. All right. We have a writer in her.
Yes, we do. So this is Tiffany from episode 624. You might remember this tagline, I'm catching feelings for my prison pen pal.
Oh, yeah.
So in short, in her original call...
I remember what because we got to see what he looked like too.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So last time that she called, she had said that she was planning to go visit him,
Yeah.
but he was still in prison.
Let's play a quick clip to remind our audience, and then we'll get an update.
My name's Tiffany, and I'm catching feelings for my prison pen pal. We met on TikTok.
You met on TikTok?
Someone made a TikTok, and they all posted like videos looking for pen pals, and I responded to one of them, and we've been talking for almost 3 months now. Yeah.
Did you know at the time that he was incarcerated?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you think about that?
Well, the first thing I did was I Googled him to see, like,
What he
make
did.
sure he wasn't like a murderer.
Yeah. What did he do?
He robbed a convenience store.
Was it with a weapon?
No, but like kind of. It was with just a gun magazine. So just like the magazine.
Gotcha. Have you thought about visiting him?
I have. And like everyone I've talked to, like they're obviously my friends. So they're telling me to go do it. So that's why I wanted to write it.
If you think you're safe, do it for the story. I don't have this like non-negotiable policy I talk to my friends is don't ever talk to someone who's ever been in prison before. I don't know. Proceed with caution for sure. Absolutely. Something that would be really important for you to do is to make sure that you feel comfortable challenging him or questioning him.
Okay.
And do you feel comfortable having potentially awkward conversations with him? And how does he react to those conversations? Is he open to you saying, hey, listen, I know we built a lot, blah, 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 but like there's something, like checking in with his past about his past. Is he patient with you? Ask him now and then. I'm sure on some level he might get defensive and say, hey, you're always bringing it up, but do you feel like you're comfortable with this?
Yeah, like I could talk to him.
Do it for the story,
you.
but yeah, and if it doesn't work out with him, just whatever you have been through in past relationships, just know you deserve a lot, and there's a lot of, decent guys out there. Everyone has to meet a lot of trolls before they meet their Prince Charming, so to speak, and vice versa with men and women,
If it doesn't work, I don't think I will get another pen pal, but...
Yeah, but you know what? You did it once. But people have met in crazier ways, Just take it slow. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
Check in with your friends. And make sure that, other than us, but make sure you also have people who, as exciting as this is to like kind of live through you, that you have friends or maybe your parents that aren't afraid to tell you to pump the brakes and just say, hey, are you sure this is the right decision? And just check with you. And, you just want to take it slow and protect yourself.
So she writes in and she says, hi, friends. I know the household was invested in my prison-based story, so I just wanted to send a quick email with a little bit of an update for you guys. So-and-so is getting out next month, and I am officially going to Idaho to meet him. Since we have reconnected, like I mentioned to you all previously, we've had a lot of heart-to-heart, long, and some tough conversations about this entire situation and what may possibly hold for the future. We are both 100% committed to each other, and I honestly couldn't ask for anything better. He has taken all of my questions, possible what-ifs, and has provided nothing but reassurance in every single way he possibly could. I have seen the biggest 180 change in him this time around. We are both super excited to finally meet, and also both a little bit nervous, of course. Like I said, I know you guys were invested in his story, so I wanted to send a little bit of a recent update. I was a little reluctant with sharing more before just because I wasn't sure how everything was going to play out. If we would have made it this far to him getting released, etc., it was weighing on me a little bit mentally at the time, so I do apologize. Thank you all so much for letting me share this part of my life journey with you.
The update is she's going to meet him in person.
Yes, yeah.
It sounds like she's really been, she's invested. She has a lot of hope.
Yeah, so she originally called in being like questioning the what ifs.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't sure if she was comfortable going down this rabbit hole.
Just remember, Gypsy Rose, she got married in prison and now already divorced from him. So
With many restraining orders in the mix.
it's just one of those things, like, you just don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
How long has this guy been in prison?
When she first originally called, it was like a year. He was going on his year. Now this is a year-ish later, so he's been in for like a couple too.
I just think proceed with caution. And it's not, and again, it's not to doubt him, or he is going through a huge transition, literally from prison to freedom. And I think anytime you meet someone or connect with someone in a transitional period, you very much run the risk of them not being into you, or you two not being as compatible as you thought or hoped once they settle in, to their new normal.
Mm-hmm.
He connected with you in prison. That matters, and sure, it's one of those things, well, like, I love you no matter what position I'm in, but like, that's not the reality. So yeah, just in general, when you meet someone in a transitional period, it's a red flag, So it's the same reason why it's a red flag when you meet someone and they're just like, I'm just not really, sure what I want to do with my life, It's like, oh, okay, well, how do you know that they want you in it, once they do know? So have hope, have excitement, proceed with caution.
That's exactly what you said the first time too.
Yeah, nothing's really changed. That's what I'm saying. And even after, if it goes well, like, I would very much caution her to reserve her excitement and feelings and hopes for the future until he settles into his new life. All right, let's get to another update from a caller. Welcome back, Maggie.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me back.
Thanwe for calling back. We love an update. So you called in because your porn addicted husband was watching too much porn, and I think you wanted to know if you should start sending nudes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, let's play a quick clip for our audience who may not have heard the first call to bring them up to speed with your original call.
I am wondering if sending my porn addicted husband nudes is a good idea. We do couples counseling, and we have for years. They have diagnosed him. Before that, he knew he had a problem.
You caught him masturbating on your work computer following your honeymoon. And then assuming, it sounds like you just didn't talk about it. And then you just decided for yourself that this was a one-off. Send the nudes. For sure. This is definitely a non-expert opinion.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in, you're married.
Yeah.
You guys are high school sweethearts. You got to find ways to mix it up. And I think in a relationship, it's fun to keep things exciting. He's at work. You send him a little something spicy. You have to be comfortable with it. It's like,
I think I need to get there.
Yeah. It can also be a ton of fun that you and your husband can have. Get a little kinky and get a little pornographic with each other rather than him having this kind of addiction with porn. All right. And we're back. In your words, what was your, what was the advice I gave you? Overall, I mean, obviously, I think, I joked about, sure, send the nudes, but I mean, obviously the conversation was bigger than just sending nudes.
Yes.
So how did you hear back the advice I gave you, and what did you do with that?
I heard to send the nudes, number one, like you said, but also heard so much more than that, in that, we have been together for so long. And if we want to continue to be together as a happily married couple, which we do, that we're going to have to make things fun and exciting and spicy. And part of that is that we have to mature out of vanilla sex. And that we had to have more open, fulfilling conversations around the subject as well, because we had been really terrible for very long about communicating, or really not communicating about it, just pretending that it's something, you have to do in the dark a couple of times. But I definitely took the advice. I have invested in some more risque pieces lately that I have never even purchased. I don't think ever spent money on a piece of lingerie. It's always just been what's comfortable in a t-shirt kind of thing. But I have spent lots of money on fun things. And you know what? It has surprisingly made me feel so like much more comfortable to do it. Like I feel good. I know that I look good. And it sort of inspired me to just step out of my comfort zone in a couple different ways, both figuratively and literally. And it's been amazing. Like the last month, I think we have only not had sex maybe 4 days, which before last month had been the reverse of that. I mean,
Pop off. Yeah. Have you had, I mean, that's amazing to hear. Have you had conversations or did you just buy lingerie?
No, we have sat down and had more than one really good conversation. We've also implemented weekly date nights.
Okay.
So right now for our family, Wednesday night works. So we have sort of forced our 14-year-old to know that she's home on Wednesdays. That's just something we have to do. And she'll complain about it. But even I have stepped up as her mother, but also her father's wife and said, no, like it is a good thing for us to have a happy relationship. You know, you don't realize how much this affects you guys, that we are more connected. And in this land of divorce, we are unfortunately part of, and it's just the season of life that I'm in my upper 30s, that, you know, you go through the seasons of everybody's getting married, everybody's having kids, and now our season is everybody's divorcing.
Yeah.
And just trying to navigate that and being thoughtful about, no, like we don't want that. So what do we have to do as a couple and as parents to make that not happen?
Where are we on the porn front?
We have decided for us that we are not going to introduce that yet.
Is he still watching it? That was more my question.
No, he is not.
Okay.
And said that even before this, he said that he had not watched it in a long time.
Okay.
So this was just not something we had ever even talked about. So I don't know, like I had all these stories in my head about what was going on or what not, what wasn't even
awesome.
happening.
Have you, well, first of all, I think that's great. And I hope that you made him feel that you really appreciated the fact that he wasn't.
Yeah.
It could go, like, I don't know what other conversations you've had around the topic, but, you know, maybe if you say, like, it's like, hey, I really appreciate you, like, one, just, you know, deciding for yourself, because I don't want to, like, stop you from watching it. But I think maybe in the future you can mention, like, if you do watch it though, ever, like, it is okay to tell me. I'm not gonna shame you or get mad at you. Like, obviously, it can be bothersome if I feel like it becomes like more of a problem or something you're relying on. But I don't want you to ever hide it from me. So if you end up watching it, like, you know, it's okay to let me know, type of thing.
No, I think I can definitely do that. Another thing that's sort of come out from this too is just not only our relationship better, but me feeling so much more empowered and like I'm stepping into control of this. I have felt like I obviously feel better about myself, but I've even told him that I'm doing this for me now. Like I am enjoying this. And you just happen to be my husband and happen to be the guy that's like in this with me.
I bet that turns him on.
I am having fun.
Yeah.
So
I bet that turns him on.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. But I think for most guys and most people who have a healthy outlook on sex, it turns them on when their partner enjoys, you know, being fun or kinky or whatever. Like no one wants people to be like, all right, I guess you can do this or whatever. So you embracing this and you doing this for yourself is awesome. And I imagine it only turns them on even more.
Yeah.
Are we sending nudes?
Yes.
Nudes to save the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually have a shoot the day after tomorrow for a professional
Okay.
session. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
take this off of our shared album
Who's
and onto
who's
something,
taking the photos?
a professional like boudoir photographer.
Hot. You should send them some BTS shoots from the scene.
Oh, that's a good idea. I was gonna keep it a surprise for his birthday, but I
Oh,
like
okay.
that
Well, I don't want to
too.
ruin the surprise.
That's a
Yeah,
really
maybe
good
it's like you
idea,
send him a
though.
little something. Also, you don't want to trigger him. Like, I don't know, like he as a guy, he might be like, who's shooting this or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah,
trigger him that it's some guy. I don't know. You know
yeah,
what? Trust your instincts. It was a surprise. Keep it a surprise.
yeah,
But when you do
yeah.
send it, make sure he knows. Like, I'm assuming a woman's taking these photos. Okay,
Yes.
just make sure he knows that. Um, let him enjoy the surprise. I don't want his first
Yeah.
thought to be like, "What the fuck?" This is great, man. It's
Yes.
so oh man, this is great. I'm so excited for you guys.
Yeah.
Isn't
It's
it
been
crazy how
so.
sometimes like the answers are really so simple and so in front of us
Yes.
that we just have to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we are both on the same page that we are in this for the long haul. And I can say, like, we have never felt more connected, and just arguments that don't matter, just being able to communicate. It just is so true how much intimacy and just connection are so intertwined.
Yeah.
We're not frustrated with each other. More easily can tell him, I need you to go pick up the kids, without feeling, that it's not his responsibility or whatever. So it just really has helped everything. And it's just so funny because I feel like roles are reversed in that I'm the one that wants it all the time. And he is like a little taken aback. And I feel like the little child that, when we don't do it at night, I'm over there being like, yeah,
Well, that's good. Well, just make sure you're not.
know.
Yeah, just like enjoy it. Don't frustrate each other. You guys are allowed to be
Yeah.
tired. You're allowed to not be in the
Yeah.
mood. But that's awesome. I'm so happy for you guys.
Yes. Yeah.
What I said helpful?
Very,
Okay.
absolutely. It just is so, like I said, and then we talked about our background quite a bit in the first call, and just being able to see it from not only a guy's side, but just hear it from someone else that, yeah, it's okay. And relationships are hard and you have to step out of your comfort zone. And it is important to us. Like, we've both realized through this that this is important for us, and we want to do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
To
Sometimes
keep it alive.
making a marriage work is just deciding to make it work. It's not that complicated. It's just a willingness to
is.
do it. And when we get
It is.
divorced or we break up with someone, part of it is because there's conflict in the relationship that quote unquote can't be resolved, but rarely ever is it that you can't solve it. You have two individuals who choose not to. And then when those relationships end, there's always like this looking for what you didn't get in the relationship. But you and your husband have shown is that you can introduce things you're not getting in the relationship without ending the relationship. You just have to be
Correct.
willing to sit down and acknowledge to
Yeah.
one another, what are you not getting out of this relationship? Where could I help? What can we do as a team to change things?
Mhm.
It's like you guys are fucking new people all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and
It is.
and it's
It
fun.
is.
You didn't have to leave the relationship. You didn't have to step out of the relationship to feel
No.
something new and something exciting and something different. You were able to do that with each other, but it took a little bit of discomfort and a willingness to have conversations to
Yeah.
get there. So, well, thank you
Yeah,
for this. I think it's
exactly.
such a great update. I hope it is inspiring other people. I hope for
Yeah.
all the people who are like,
Absolutely.
I don't know if I can have that conversation,
Yeah.
you might as well
Yeah.
try,
It's hard.
Yeah.
It sucks to put out, someone you've been with for so long, and just be open and honest, like you said, about what you're missing or not wanting, or just assuming that is or isn't happening, when the other one is completely, that is not their train of thought at all.
Yeah.
And, just having that out there And in my case, like talking to other friends that have recently divorced, and they're out there dating, doing these things.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I want to do these things with a husband that still finds me attractive and that loves me and the father of my 3 kids? Like, why wouldn't I want to do those things that everyone else thinks is so normal and what you do when you are, dating and whatever?
Yeah, well, that's the
Like,
thing. Is like
that's
why
dumb.
couldn't people do that with their partners? It's like they act like they can
Exactly.
only do that with people they barely know,
Right.
and then they're dating. It's just like, boy, if you just would have introduced a little bit of that into your marriage, it
Exactly.
could have gone a long way.
Exactly. It's important.
All right. Well, thank you for such a great update. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And enjoy the photo shoot. Keep sending those nudes.
Thank
Nudes
you.
to save the relationship.
I will. Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And we're back. We got one more written update.
Yes. So this is Chloe from episode 618. You might remember this because you might have a personal connection. She called in. Basically, her partner's physical changes were affecting her attraction to him. He had a deviated septum, and then she was kind of equating that to the result that he was now eating fast food.
But
and
again, a
gaining
deviated
weight.
septum does not change your appearance.
No, not at all. But that's why she called in, and she was basically like, when they met, he basically he had this perception that he was very physical, would hike a lot, but then the pandemic happened, and then
He got lazy.
He got lazy, essentially. Yeah. And then she was questioning whether it was wrong to like lose her physical attraction. So she sends in a quick update and she says, "Hi guys, thank you for checking in. I did end up breaking up with him after coming to the conclusion that we were just no longer compatible. That being said, we ended on good terms and I had tickets to a comedy show together that ended up with him falling asleep at the wheel on our way home and crashing us into a hydropole and breaking my back. I'm now 3 months post back surgery after having spinal fusion, so we are now no longer together and I will forever be impacted by our relationship. Haha."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Is she okay?
That's what she sent us in.
Forever impacted by the relationship.
Yeah.
I think it's really important in those moments not to dwell on that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
We have a great ability to make bad situations worse by obsessing over ideas like that. I mean,
Yeah,
she's
100%.
not wrong, but it just doesn't do her any good. She got in an accident. She could have been driving. It's like every time we get into a car, we run that risk. It doesn't do her any good to see. Like, I thought I should have broke up with him sooner, and if I had not, and
She did end up with end the email with haha. So she's still trying to find like a lighthearted spin on.
Yeah.
But
I
she
hope
is
she's
thinking about
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's important too to remind yourself in those situations that, everything happens for a reason. And it's possible that you could have been somewhere else that could have been even worse, So it's important to remember those things when, you were supposed to give him another chance. You were supposed to go on that date. This was like, as dark as it sounds, like it's possible. That's what I like to tell myself when something bad goes down, instead of being like, oh, well, if I hadn't gone to pick that person up, I wouldn't have gotten a speeding ticket. It's like, well, I could have.
Sure. Well, but to your point, though, like, that's the thing. It's just like, it's important not to dwell over the negative because, listen, I'm not again, everything happens for a reason, but I'm a big butterfly effect. And like, as long as you're willing to like learn and grow, I don't know what the future holds for our caller, but her life has been impacted by this. She probably has, if nothing else, a lot of the physical therapy. Hopefully, she can make a pretty, good recovery, but like down the line, it will be impacted. You're right. She's right. This technically it will always change her life, how much she recovers from or not. But this is such a big thing that, think of all the physical therapy appointments she's now going to that she wouldn't be going to. Well, think about all the people she might meet. And somewhere along the line,
right,
healthy people in situations will come up, all of which none of would have happened. It's just like you gotta take the good with the bad, just like you have to take the bad with the good.
Absolutely.
It's like, so if you're gonna dwell on the bad, it's like eventually good things are gonna come from this.
Yeah.
What that is, we don't know yet.
And
So to sit there and dwell on the bad,
or to blame yourself, you can't blame yourself
Yeah.
for doing that, because you could have. It's unfortunate that this happened, and I hope that she recovers quickly and easily. But anything could have happened to you that day, and you just don't know.
Well, and something you said in the original call was it must be tiring to continue being his cheerleader. This is the original call when he was spiraling. So now she has the chance to at least be her own cheerleader.
what is the protocol I mean, is there a double standard? You know, because listen, I think if anytime if a woman called in, right? I have a boyfriend, and let's say, you know, it's like I can tell my boyfriend has lost attraction to me, and yesterday he told me that I've gained too much weight and no longer he's attracted to me, and I think we would all agree and say, well, that guy's a fucking asshole. Like he didn't need to say that, right? On the is that what it is? Like, is it regardless of maybe some things you just don't need to say, but like where in the relationship, you know, I think every couple's like, hey, if I, you know, when you're both looking hot, when you're both looking fresh, couples will say this to each other: don't ever let me become that person. You be honest with me when that happens, you know, and you're like, sure, no problem.
It's like, no way.
Yeah. But like, when do you, and when is it ever okay to communicate, you know, and or how do you communicate it?
In my opinion, it would be, I would only ever say anything to Dan, like for the weight thing, for example, I would only ever say anything if it was impacting his health. Otherwise, like appearance wise, I would just keep my mouth shut.
Because there's a way to also phrase it without commenting on physical appearance.
Yeah.
In most
like,
situations.
Yeah. It's like cholesterol, like I'm worried for your health.
There's that. Yeah. This call was more about like, it was more about his attitude and his laziness.
Yeah.
That was the biggest turnoff.
Which is a whole separate thing. Like, again, like, you know, if that's impacting his physical appearance, it's rather than to say I'm not attracted to you anymore.
Call him a lazy
physically,
piece of shit. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not attracted to how you're not, you know, career oriented. You're not getting off the couch. Like you're not going out and doing things. Like that's not attractive to me, as opposed to like a physical attribute.
You've given up on yourself.
No.
No, don't say that.
That's essentially what you're saying, but in not those words.
Gotcha.
Because that's a little harsh, but it's more like, I'm attracted to people who are passionate about their career and passionate about bettering their life and, you know, excited to explore the world. I'm not necessarily attracted to someone who sits on a couch all day, sometimes, but not all day. Yeah. So that as opposed to commenting on like, I'm not attracted to your nose.
Yeah. We've also had people write in where, for example, we had one woman write in and she basically said like, my husband's now losing weight and exercising a lot. Should I be concerned? So I think like the door swings both ways on like people questioning their partner's physical appearance. But maybe it's like not a question of their appearance, but their lifestyle choices.
Right. Because
and it's more of like you can question it in a way that you're trying to understand.
I mean, the only time I remember being in a relationship long ago where my partner lost a lot of weight and I wasn't into it.
Because she was always at the gym and like her lifestyle, or you didn't physically find it attractive?
I physically wasn't, it wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't say anything. But
right. Because if that's the reason, then you don't. I think that if it was more so like, you know, you go to the gym instead of like hanging out, you know, like you would, you know, it's more like that where it's like we go out to dinner and like you never let yourself like have a good time with me. Because I do think people could swing too far in the other way.
It is an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Because it is based somewhat on like social programming, but at the same
100%.
time.
Like I've struggled with an eating disorder and I was no fun at all during that time. Like I would go out to eat and I would not eat, you know? So it's like definitely that's more like action as opposed to the physical appearance of what that did to me.
Yeah. Tough conversations.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Whew. Anyways, all right. Well, we got one more caller left. Let's get to the update. Welcome back, Camilla.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
We're great. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me again.
It's great to have you back. Your voice has changed. We've, I don't know if people remember. To set it up, Camilla called in a while. What was our first episode?
First episode was 442.
442. Mm-hmm. So 300 some episodes ago. I remember. I remember the first time you called in. The first time she called in because she was living in Costa Rica at the time. Your boyfriend was from England. And you were considering moving to England at the time, but you were very close to your family. You were very torn, you know, between kind of rooting up your life and moving. And I was ultimately like, I think I just generally gave you the advice of like, you always move home, which is usually my advice when those. This will be fun. Let's play a quick clip from the original call. And I think the audience can decide for themselves if Camilla's voice has evolved. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
So good. Great to talk to you again. Last time you called in, you had you weren't sure about the risks you should take, maybe. Where are you at? Bring us up to speed.
I wasn't really sure if I should move abroad with my partner because we were considering we live in Costa Rica right now. We were considering moving to England. Your guys' advice, I still think about it now. It was really, really useful. You guys told me how like staying at a place for others ends up like costing me in the long run, because if I don't do things for myself and then these people's priorities change, and then I'm just left kind of like in a place where I don't want to be just for sake of being with others. And so the update's really unexpected, I think. And that's why I kind of wanted to let you guys know. But funnily enough, when I called originally last May, that same day, my mom fell really ill. And I don't want to get emotional about it, but I think I'm going to have to. But basically, she got really ill. She had cancer and we didn't know. And basically 2 months after that, she passed away.
I'm so sorry.
And thank you. It was really unexpected, and it was really hard because my sister had already passed away a couple of years ago. And so they were like my two closest family members. And the fact that they both left was a huge shock. And I was here in Costa Rica mostly for her. I came back from England during the pandemic back here to be with her. So the fact that she was gone was kind of like the perfect example of sort of what Nick was implying in the original call, that if I stayed here for someone else and then like they were gone, then like what's left for me here? So it was really interesting. Obviously, I know you didn't mean it in like that dark of a twist, but that's what ended up happening. And so when she got really ill and then she ended up passing away really suddenly, my partner was away at work, and he was like in Gibraltar or something like that. I don't know. He was really, really far away. It was like a 20-hour flight back home, and he took it immediately. He like dropped everything and came home, which was like it spoke a lot about his character, because you know how alone it would be.
Honestly, that's significant. I don't think a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," but like that's a 20-hour flight, like.
And he was at work. It wasn't like his choice.
Yeah. So good on him. That's clearly someone who's really wants to be there for you.
So now we realize that like if there was a good reason to move before, there's even more so to do it now. And so we've started all the paperwork and we are almost finished with it. I think if everything goes well, in like 6 weeks, we should have an answer. But our plan is to move July 1st. So we already have like a house. So yeah, we're going to move there. We have our dog's permits ready to go. So she's coming with us, and we're in the middle of like selling everything here. And yeah, so I feel a lot more excited to move now, ever since like the fear that I had before had like kind of like slowly but surely moved away. And now I'm like more so excited of what's to come and like getting, a fresh start away from everything.
All right. Well, congratulations on the upcoming move. Very exciting stuff. It's going to be, I'm sure, a really great adventure for you, and one that you'll be really glad that you made.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you gave us an update after you had first moved, right?
No, so that was just after we decided to make the move and the paperwork and everything was ongoing, but we hadn't actually made the move yet.
Okay, see, there she sounded more Spanish.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. What was the advice I gave you for that? What was the question there?
Well, it wasn't so much of a question. I wanted to let you guys know that like what you said about not staying in Costa Rica or like anywhere really for the people, but more so for my own personal projects was exactly what happened, because my mom had passed away a little bit after you and I spoke the first time suddenly, and everything was kind of like drastic at the time. And so it kind of helped me realize that I can't stay in one place for one reason. And that's sort of why we made the move. But it wasn't like the sole reason, but it was like part of the reasoning why I made the decision. But back then there wasn't really much of a question. It was just an update. Now it's both a question and an update, I think.
Okay. So, and when did you move?
We moved in June of last year. So we've been here for around 10 months.
Okay. And how's it going?
So everything you told me kind of happened. So I was struggled at the beginning.
What did I tell you?
You said that it was going to be difficult to put myself out there, but ultimately that was going to be the way to make friends. And obviously, like, as really worked out and paid off. At the beginning, I really struggled. I couldn't make friends. I didn't know what to do. But I started to put myself out there, Bumble BFF, and like going to bars and going to things and meeting people and finding a new job. Obviously, you have to start your life over. Things like getting a driver's license because it's on the other side of the road. You know, like everything has to be brand new, but I did it all. So that's been great in that regard. But my relationship has really been taking, I think, a little bit of a toll. And I'm quite confused because I'm not sure if everything is extremely circumstantial or if this is just who my boyfriend is.
Okay.
But because we made this whole move, you know, now it feels a bit scary to leave or to even question leaving, I guess.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, you know, not shocked to hear that. How long you guys been together?
3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay. Yeah, I mean, listen, this was always possible, you know? Like, if you would have told me when I gave you the advice to, like, hey, you always move, that, like, you could have moved for him, try to make it work, and then the relationship could not work out and you could still fall in love with the place that you ended up moving to. You know, that was always possible.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny,
Yeah.
Natalie has an aunt who lives in Spain because she married a guy who lived in Spain, moved to Spain, raised a family in Spain, still lives in Spain, not married to the guy she moved to Spain for, and then made a life there, you know? So there is that.
Yeah.
But what is going on in your relationship that makes you question, you know, what's going on?
Yeah. So for some context, so my boyfriend doesn't speak any Spanish, right? And he really struggled when we were in Costa Rica, and he didn't really have a lot of a social life, and he struggled with like just feeling like he was belonging. And we always kind of attributed that to, well, the lack of culture and the lack of, you know, like the language and all these barriers that had that in mind. We also lived in the city. He's very much like a countryside kind of person, outdoorsy. Like I told you before, like he works on boats. He's been coming and going, all these things. But now that we're here, so we're in a city here as well, because that's kind of what I wanted. But he agreed, you know, like he was happy with that. And so he decided to leave his job as a sea person because he was just kind of burned out with his job back in January.
A
But
sea
he
person?
hasn't
What
made
do you mean?
like a seafarer, you know, like a
Oh,
boat.
okay. This the sea. Okay, all right.
Yeah. But so, you know, he hasn't really made any friends. He hasn't really put himself out there. It's very much the same as when we were in Costa Rica, that like I felt like I was in charge of outings and keeping the household ready. And like I put myself out there. I'm not even from here, and I have a group of friends and I have like a life set up here. And he's, I guess, struggling a little bit with who he wants to be, but also just struggling with the relationship. And like he's not really managed to make friends or even put himself out there. He blames it all on like the fact that he thinks he's going through like an identity crisis. And to a point, I agree, but also like he's not putting any effort.
How old is
So,
your
like,
boyfriend?
He's 33.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you meet? Like, why was he in Costa Rica when you guys first met?
So he decided to move. It was like end of 2020. So it was like just that the pandemic was kind of at least opening up a little bit more. And he decided to move somewhere else to start fresh. He went to Costa Rica once and really liked it. He wanted to move to the beach there. But then we matched on Bumble there. And I lived in the city. But he was like, well, this relationship is so great. It doesn't matter. I'll move to the city. So he kind of did it on a whim, I guess.
Okay. Is he an introvert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so what are you guys struggling with the most right now?
I think because he's been responsible financially for a while, and now that he's not working, he kind of feels like that pressure is more. So he kind of like makes comments sometimes or like lashes out or makes me feel bad about, like, for instance, I got a new job a month ago and it's been really difficult for me to find something, and I wanted to like celebrate. And he was like, I think that's kind of silly. Like, why would you celebrate? It's just like a job. And like he understands that I kind of want these things and like need these little details, but it doesn't come like natural to him. And he, I think, has been attributing it to the fact that he's struggling with himself. But if I think back, I feel like he's always sort of been like that a little bit. But before it was like the Costa Rica excuse, and now, you know, I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I mean, that's good for you to acknowledge, I mean, I guess that was always possible. I mean, you're basically saying that, like, that's a big thing to own, right? Like, you guys met in these kind of crazy circumstances. Him even being in Costa Rica was kind of like, why are you here? It almost sounds like he was having a bit of a crisis then,
Yeah.
starting over is such a drastic thing to say, as opposed to like, I wanted to do something adventurous and fun, If you can recognize that a lot of the frustrations you had about him and the relationship, you kind of chalked up to him being out of his element, then yeah, that's definitely something that is possible, because now that you have changed your environment, you moved for him, you are seeing the same, you're not seeing anything different. Nothing's changing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you've been with this guy for 3.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's always been 2 months on, 2 months off.
What do you
right?
mean 2 months on, 2 months off?
Because he has to be on the boat, or he's historically always been on the boat for 2 months and then home for 2 months on vacation and then back and forth.
Okay.
This is the first time it's been like, I guess, in one go, like more than 4 months.
Sure. But even, okay, so forgetting about like the new, I'm just saying his red flags, whatever you want to call it, the things you find frustrating about him or the relationship. You've dated this guy for 3 years, I guess is what I'm saying. And even though it's been 2 months on and 2 months off, like, this person. And so you tell me, like, who do you think your boyfriend is?
I think that's difficult because I think he has two versions of himself, like who he really is and who he aspires constantly to be, more so for himself than anyone else. And I don't know.
No, I get that, but that doesn't change who he is. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's the person you've experienced? So maybe that is, well, he can show different sides of him. He can be inconsistent with the person he shows. Like, that's who he is right now. You're saying you can't, you seem to always be finding a way to try to make an excuse for his behavior. You know what I'm saying? So when I ask you, who is he? You're like, well, that's kind of complicated because, like, there's this variable and there's that variable and there's this thing, this might explain it. But at the end of the day, you've dated this guy for 3.5 years. You've gotten to know him. You've seen him stressed out. You've seen him happy. You've seen how he supports you. You've seen how he doesn't support you. I'm guessing you've seen him in kind of almost every instance. So if someone said, describe your boyfriend to me, describe him, how is he as a partner? Do you find him to be a supportive partner? Forget about trying to, ease the answer or explain why he is a certain way. We could spend all day being like, well, he's this way because maybe he had some childhood trauma. Or like I asked, is he introverted? Okay, that certainly might explain why he acts the way he is. But as far as you're concerned, who is he? Who do you feel like you're in a relationship with?
I think he is not sure who he even is himself, because he's so, like you said, like he was in a little bit of a crisis when he moved to Costa Rica and then kind of put all of his personality in a way into the relationship. And to this day, it's kind of been that. I think I kind of struggle because to me, he is caring. He's so supportive, and he can be supportive in like a financial way and like a being present kind of way, but he's not gentle or like soft, or I guess to me, like what I need, like someone that's like open and vulnerable.
Okay.
But he's physically there. That I know for him means that he's like a supportive person. And he's, I guess you're right that he is inconsistent, and for himself and for others, because of what you said of like the things that he's shown and not shown, I guess.
What has he shown an interest in terms of like, it sounds like he's struggling with what he wants, like you said, what he wants to do with, is it a professional dilemma? Is it like a personal dilemma?
I think both, because he's not sure what he wants to do for a living. He's not sure where he wants to live. He likes certain like outdoorsy hobbies, but he doesn't feel like a quote unquote normal person because he's been working on boats for so long, and he doesn't connect with people that say go to an office, go to work and come home, because his life is so quote unquote like exciting in comparison. And like, he likes cars and motorbikes and he has those sort of hobbies. But since he left his job, he hasn't really been doing those hobbies because he's afraid of like the finance implications of that.
So why is he unemployed?
He just was burned out. So he left his
Okay.
And he wanted to change careers and perhaps pursue to be a helicopter pilot, but that's expensive. So he started it, and now he's gonna post it because he feels like he's not sure he wants to really pursue it, so he's gonna put it on hold for a bit.
Like, what is your, how do you, like, I guess, how do you feel about your relationship? And I want you to, like, before you answer, I want you to just like vent. I don't want you to consider what you're saying. I want you to just say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want you to like empathize with him first, and I don't want you to be understanding. I just want you to vent about, good or bad, about your relationship.
Okay. I have been feeling really bad because I think he doesn't understand the things I need. And I also feel guilty because I know he's taking on the financial, quote unquote, burden of me and him as a family in a way. But like that doesn't mean that I don't have any other needs. And I feel like he doesn't work on the relationship. He doesn't think about what I need because he thinks he's already given everything because of the fact that we have a house and like all our needs, financial and like other like day-to-day needs are being met. But I'm just tired because I feel like I've told him. And when I tell him that I need things like date nights or celebrations because I just got a new job, or I want to plan something for my birthday, or I want to do something nice, even if it's like little details, but he does it one time because I asked him to, but it doesn't come natural to him. And I've been struggling because I think the arguments can sometimes get a little bit nasty, and he gets really defensive for comments that I make that I know.
Well, how do you make those comments?
So I'll use this example about this energy drink situation. So a couple of days ago, I woke up at like 7 a.m. and he had opened, it wasn't like a Red Bull, but it was like a natural energy drink, but still heavily caffeinated. And he was like opening that like drink at 7 a.m. with like no food, nothing, just having that thing. But he's unemployed and he just woke up at 7 a.m. So what do you need the energy drink for? So I kind of just said like, oh, that's kind of bad for your stomach. What are you doing drinking that first thing in the morning? And he got really defensive, started Googling it and then telling me like that I was wrong. That was probably some random video that I saw on TikTok about like how drinking an energy drink in the morning is bad for you. And like, but it's actually not. And like, he just picked a really ugly argument. And he always does this like of Googling facts. And I hate that. So I just kind of burst and I said, every time you Google something, I feel like I'm never right. I can never be somehow concerned for your health as a good thing. It has to be like I'm attacking your character, or like he feels like I'm judging him, so he needs to defend himself. And it's never taken from a place of like, she's worried, she's concerned, I should think about why I'm doing this. But immediately he just goes for like an
What did he
argument.
say to that? What did he say to that? Did you express that to him?
I did. I told him that made me feel really small. And he just said like, oh, you're being dramatic. Do I always do this? And I was like, well, no, but you do it often enough that I feel like this. And he always makes me, I don't know, like there are times.
Did you ever ask him, how can I support you in a way that you feel support for me? And how can I express my frustrations to you in a way that doesn't always trigger you, you know? Because it does feel like anytime I'm frustrated, and I get it, you have your frustrations too, but like I want to be able to express things to you, not because I want to criticize you, because I want to communicate to you how we can better understand each other. Have you said something like that?
Not really, because I feel like every time I express my feelings or I express my concerns, they're met with like I'm being dramatic, or I pay too much attention to words. And I don't know, like he can say something that would make me feel small or insignificant, but because he's there, then I shouldn't feel like that. I don't know.
Wait, because he's there, you're not supposed to have feelings?
So for example, when I got this new job, I was really excited. I was with a friend having like a celebratory drink. And I told him how like they were going to give me like a work from home setup, and I was going to have like a new computer. And this computer I currently have, he had to like, he bought for me because my computer broke randomly one day and I didn't have any money to buy a new one. And his first comment was like, oh, so I get my computer back now. Kind of like saying like, this computer you have, I paid for, so it's actually mine.
What would you have preferred?
For him to be happy for me that I have this new job and this stupid new computer I'm going to get for the job.
Does he make a lot of comments to you in a passive aggressive way about how he supports you financially?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nothing's free, as they say. Is there any part of you that's still with him because you moved here for him? Like, how much of you being in this relationship is currently more based off of, either whatever promises you made to yourself, or, if I quit now, or like more based off of loyalty rather than your actual happiness or obligation or loyalty or anything like that,
A little bit, but it's also the fact that like I said, because I think he's going through stuff. I wonder how much is
Well, that can't always be an
circumstantial.
excuse. To me, from what I'm hearing, is that he's been going through stuff since you met him.
And that's what I say. Like, you have to learn to dance in the rain. You can't wait for the rain to stop to start being happy. But he's always looking for the next thing that's going to make him happy or better. But to
Yeah,
your
and
original
also
question,
it's kind of a fucking emotional burden to always be dealing with someone who's never able to find personal fulfillment or never feels settled, because then their drama always trumps yours. It's like their concerns are always greater than yours, It's like, oh, well, it sounds like he doesn't do a very good job of validating you ever. But just for the record, it's fucking crazy that you got a new job and he made you feel bad for wanting to celebrate that.
And he fixes it later. He's like, a week later or something, he booked a nice dinner and he was like, I'm so sorry I didn't celebrate it originally. But a whole argument had to come of me telling him that wasn't okay for him to do something.
Yeah. Did you mention that at some point? So like, hey, thank you for acknowledging this, but like, is in the future, could we maybe not have to go through the whole song and dance?
I just feel like he genuinely believes he doesn't, like he doesn't see a world where someone would want a big fuss. That's what he sees it as. And I know there's also like a cultural pattern to that people here can be very like keeping to themselves and being a little bit like this. So that's where I wonder, because
you have a friend in there who's from England. Is it crazy that you wanted to celebrate a job? Do people from England just not want to celebrate anything? Are you guys just in that entirely boring of a culture? I don't think that's the case.
Well, what we talked about is that a lot of people are like that here, but they doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, he wants to change, and he tells me all these things like he wants to get better at it. But I just think he's not in his nature. And I think like it's just not something he can do.
I always like, one thing I say all the time, and I feel like you're kind of reminding me of it, is you can't help people who don't want to help themselves. You can't pick up the slack that people are unwilling to do in their own lives, And the more you talk, it sounds like you are trying to, again, whether it's because you want to be an empathetic partner or whatever, but there always seems to be a reason that you're trying to explain his behavior. And maybe some of those reasons are valid. I mean, listen, he wouldn't be the first person who's gone through, a 5-year rut, But most people aren't able to maintain healthy relationships if they are, in fact, going to go through a 5-year rut. And if people go through a 5-year rut, it's not because they're incapable of getting out of it. It's probably because they haven't done anything proactive to get themselves out of this rut. They're just down bad. They're just, they victimize themselves. It's never their fault. They're unhappy, and then, again, they could become a Debbie Downer. And like, you seem like patient, and you've been with this guy for a while. Hell, you moved across the country for him. You've been accommodating for his kind of very inconsistent schedule, 2 months on, 2 months off. At some point, if you're going to be in a relationship with this guy, you have to feel like he is willing to actually try, and not say he's going to try, but actually do the thing that he says. He can't keep apologizing for the same thing. He can't keep making you feel bad for disagreeing with him or having a difference of opinion. At the end of the day, if he's going to keep saying, well, this is how I am and yada, 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 maybe you guys just agreed that you're just not as compatible as you hoped. But like, you can't keep making excuses for him,
Yeah, I agree with you. But what you were saying about like how someone can sometimes be in like a 5-year rut, isn't it kind of like heartless to leave them alone?
Absolutely
when
not.
they're going through something like this?
Because first of all, like maybe it's not a rut either. And if he's going through a rut, he's an adult, and everyone goes through a rut, and everyone goes through a tough time. And you would be there to support him if he wanted that support, but you don't feel like he's appreciative of the support you're willing to give. It sounds like he does quite the opposite. He almost like mocks you for it or makes you feel foolish, or I'm hearing that you're looking for something to work with, but it's like he supports you financially, but at the end of the day, not for free. He has a passive aggressive way of kind of making you feel like you owe him, or that it's not really something he's happy to do. I'm not getting the impression that you take for granted his generosity or you assume certain things. Now that you have this new job, are you able to support yourself?
Yeah, I haven't gotten my first paycheck yet, but
So it's like a new job.
yeah, I started like 3 weeks ago.
Congrats. I mean, well, I mean, listen, like people complain all the time about things that they actually don't want to lose, So what I mean, for example, it's like, yeah, he's been financially supporting you. And it sounds like he's from time to time, he finds moments to be passive aggressive about it and point out that it's his computer, not yours. And that, he can get it back when he bought this for you, and so, yeah, technically it's his, but him needing to point that out is a way of just letting you know. And it makes you feel bad. It makes you feel like, oh my God, all this. But there is a world where you getting a job and you being able to support you financially is a bit of security that he has in the relationship. Like you need him. It's like here, my girlfriend moved from Costa Rica. She didn't have a job. I'm kind of paying for her. And like, he knows he's not the perfect person right now. He knows he hasn't been stepping up as a boyfriend. He knows you've been frustrated. So there's a world in which like deep down, he's a little afraid of your independence that you have created on your own. I don't know if that's true, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because it doesn't make sense that he wouldn't be happy for you. I guess what I'm saying is he's got to give you something. You got to be able to work with something. You can't keep coming up with excuses as to why he is the way he is. At some point, you're just going to have to say, this is who you are. Because he could easily be a person that is never going to be happy with himself. That maybe to be able to be to where you want him to be might require literally therapy. He might have to change his perspective on life. You made a comment where like he's not like anyone else because he has a more exciting life. That's a kind of a weird thing to say. Like who are you convincing? Are you convincing yourself? Or are you convincing these other people?
I've always thought that as well. Like I think it's a really weird, strange thing to think about because people are still people, aren't they?
I mean, sure. I think him going to sea is interesting. I don't find it that would not be exciting to me. That would be hell. Mm-hmm. Good for him. Good for him to move into Costa Rica. That's great, but like, yeah, like why does but clearly he is a guy who is struggling with some sort of purpose in his life, yeah. But that's not your responsibility. And you can't be his emotional caretaker. You can be there to support him. You can be there to be his cheerleader. You can be there to have his back, but he doesn't want that support. It doesn't seem like, in fact, he seems to criticize, he uses you trying to support him as a way to make you feel dumber or less about yourself. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like no one wants to if he wants to have an energy drink in the morning, pop off, King. But personally, I like it when Natalie points out that when I have a sweet tooth, and lately I've been kind of indulging in that sweet tooth despite me, getting married soon. And, Natalie will remind me of that. And I'm not Googling stupid articles as to why I should be able to eat Nutella with pretzels at night. I bet I could find it on the internet.
Yeah.
But I don't need to be right all the time. It sounds like he does. But like he is not finding value. That's the thing. It's like you can't be his you're like his emotional punching bag, not his emotional support system. Unfortunately, he puts you down or doesn't praise you when you deserve it because he is unhappy with his own life. And it is not your responsibility. You don't owe him anything. He chose to financially support you. That was a decision he made. You didn't sign a contract. There wasn't an IOU. You both as adults entered in this relationship. And oh, by the way, you fucking moved across the world for him. You made sacrifices too. He made sacrifices. You both made sacrifices, even Steven. But like, he's having a hard time seeing that.
Yeah. And it's something that, because I've all these things that you're saying, I have said. And then when these conversations are happening, then he starts going like, well, no, but I don't want you to pay me back. And I just want the recognition. And I see that to see that you actually appreciate it. Or regarding
do
like the
you
move.
do you think you could
you
do a
only
better
wanna-
job of appreciating some of those things?
No, definitely. I feel like I've been so outspoken and thankful.
And do you say, well, like, I feel like I have, but how could I better show you my appreciation? I mean, the best, when people don't make sense, as it seems like your boyfriend often doesn't. The best way to deal with someone who doesn't make sense is ask them questions. Don't point out how much they don't make sense. Ask follow-up questions. Well, you never do this. Okay, well, how can I do this? I feel like I do, but maybe I'm wrong. Can I do it? And if, make him say the thing that okay, fair enough, but like, did I not do, like, okay, but like, let's say he says, well, yeah, well, you could do this, but like, well, what was last week Wednesday when I said blah, 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 blah? Was that not what you're saying? Or, you know what I'm saying? Ask, when you ask questions of things that are, the answers to, you got to make them answer the question. It's easy to just disagree with you. It's easy to bring up an article, act dumb and confused. Oh, okay. Well, how do I do that? How can I better support you? How can I do this? This is what I want to do. Instead of pointing out what he's doing wrong and then he'll get defensive, just be like, oh, well, I would love to, how can I connect with you better? How can I do this? Eventually, he's not either going to have an answer, but you can point out that eventually it's just like, yeah, I want to do this because I care, but like, he's clearly very triggered when you say always or never, and then he uses that against you. Well, I never do this. And don't get me wrong, it is frustrating when someone, if you say always and never a lot, I can get why he gets frustrated, but at the same time, people use that against you. So, but yes, asking questions is a great way to deal with people who don't make a lot of sense. Why are you still with them? Is it more out of obligation or is it out of love?
I think it's both. I feel a sense of like, if I were to leave right now, I would feel extremely guilty considering how much he's actually like, he had to furnish the house and he paid for literally everything. Obviously, doing stuff here in England is a lot more expensive than what we were used to before.
Sure.
Like,
Did he?
And with him now feels
if you,
so.
Let's say you weren't his girlfriend, would he live without furniture, or would he be homeless? Would he not have an apartment?
Yeah, but I still think like I kind of used them and it would feel very like, oh, thank you. Now that I have all these things and I have a job, I'm going to leave.
But that's not why you're leaving, is it?
No,
you tell me.
no.
Like, did you secretly use him for all these years until you got a job so that you could break up with him once you got, is that what's going on?
No.
Okay, then.
But he's struggling and I feel like you don't leave people when they're down.
Well, sometimes you do. I mean, it all depends on what is he willing to work with you, or is he just making his problem your problem? I'm not trying to convince you to break up with him, but I feel very strongly that it is not your obligation to stay with him just because he is struggling. Because I think you need to realize what you're saying to me, and what you're saying to me is this man has been struggling with his identity since you met him. And so maybe it's probably more likely this is who he is rather than something he's going through. But either way, he needs to be proactive, and he actually needs to do something to either change his behavior or help him get out of this rut. He's not doing either. He's either moping around and feeling sorry for himself, coming up with different ways why life's not fair, and then taking out his frustrations on you and not emotionally supporting you in your successes. And he's not treating you like a teammate. He's treating you like an individual he's in a relationship with. He's not seeing your successes as a part of his successes. He's competing with you in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just a lot for you to undertake in a relationship. And even if he like came to you today and said, hey, I'm committed to working on this, it might be a while before you actually see any real progress. I mean, you're talking about a guy who doesn't even know what he wants to do. Yeah. So, how long are you going to wait around for him to figure that out? And he can be struggling with something and still be a great boyfriend. He could be like, babe, I don't really know what I want to do with my life. I often feel disappointed with how things have worked out. Sometimes I feel this and sometimes I feel that. But tell you what, you've been the one shining light in these past 3 years, and I really appreciate having you around. And you're always there for me. And like, he could decide to be an awesome boyfriend. He could be like, I don't have a lot. I don't know what. There's a lot of things I don't know about my life, but I do know I love her. I do know I want to be in a relationship with her. I do know I want to work on our connection. I do know that I want to be happy for her. He's not, you know what I'm saying? Like he's capable of doing that. He chooses not to be.
Said that, but like what you just said, like I don't know about anything, but I know there's one thing I did right, and it's being with you.
Okay.
But I feel like it even maybe feels like a lot of pressure that's like the only thing.
Well, sure, I get that, but I mean, is he saying it because when he thinks you're breaking up with him? When is he saying that stuff like that?
No, he hasn't said it lately, but because we've been arguing a lot, but he has said it in the past, like sometimes when he's like really confused or like struggling about what he wants to do next, he does bring that up, that like me and our dog is like the one thing that he's really thankful that he has.
And does that make you feel good?
Not thankful, he just says it.
You don't think he is? You don't believe it?
I think I believe it because there's not a lot to compare it to, I guess. Not saying that I'm a bad partner, but like saying in the sense is like, well, everything else is shit, but at least I have her kind of thing.
I guess that's a more you problem, I think. Because you gotta, again, you can always find something to complain about. Maybe he's rubbing off on you.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, but if he says it sincerely in a time where he's not like afraid that you're going to break up with them, and he's like, hey, I just want you to know that I'm lucky to have you. I hope you feel that. I mean, what do you think if you were to try to sum up, what do you love about your relationship, and what do you need to change to be in it?
I love that we are extremely like that we've been together through difficult things and always wanted to find a solution. That's something that we've always like. I've never felt like he's, I don't know, like, oh, this is too difficult, I'm just gonna give up on it. Like even if he hasn't actually done anything for himself in terms of the relationship, I can tell that he shows up. And maybe not with words, maybe not in the way that I've needed, but he shows up in the way he knows how.
Which is how?
So, for example, like when my mom passed away and I was really bad and I was crying a lot, he didn't know what to say. And maybe I needed more like words, and because I am very word oriented, but he would hug me and he wouldn't really know what to say, but he would be there.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah.
Did he say, I'm not really sure what to say, but I just want to be here for you? Did he say that?
Yeah.
At least? Okay. He still needs to try, I guess I'm just saying, like, we all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses.
Yeah.
But we still have to work on our weaknesses sometimes. We can't just say, especially when it comes to making our partners feel loved.
Yeah.
So he has to.
And I think that's what I need. It's like I need him to be a little bit more verbal, or for him to sometimes just know what I need. And like I know that it's like I don't want him to read my mind every single time, but like if sometimes I'm feeling really anxious or if I'm having a bad episode because I miss my mom, I want him to know what would make me feel better. Because like you said, we've been together for 3.5 years. Like he should know what I need sometimes.
What do you need when you're going through that?
I need him to like make me laugh, to get me out of my own head, to like make something like, let's go on a walk, let's walk the dog on the park or whatever.
And what does he do?
He just kind of hugs me. I can tell that he doesn't know what to do. And that's when I feel frustrated because I feel like at this point he should know.
Maybe, maybe not. So like that's where you're being a bit contradictory. Well, because that first part, it's just like, hey, my boyfriend's really struggling with life, and I feel bad because he's struggling. He can't figure himself out, and here I am being like, well, listen, it's not your problem, like I get it, but like, you're just like, well, can you leave someone if they're going through something? And then the flip side, you're like, he should know how to make me feel better.
But I've questioned that myself because I've questioned, shouldn't I know how to make him feel better? Well, I also don't know how to make him feel better.
Well, his is like a long-term problem. I mean, you're having these like, if you're having a bad day, which everyone has, does he at least ask, how can I make you feel better?
Not really. No.
Okay, so if you had the benefit of a genie who gave you 2 wishes, and you can only grant you 2 wishes of how to change something in your boyfriend, what would it be?
Definitely for him to be more communicative, more open about his emotions and receptive of mine.
Okay, what else?
To show me that he cares about the little things I care about because I care about the things he cares about.
Give me an example. Like, what do you care about that he doesn't?
It's really important for me that he would learn Spanish and communicate with my family, and he never did.
Okay.
He would Duolingo sometimes, but he never really put the effort to do it.
Okay. Anything else? That's kind of a big one. It's hard to learn a language.
Yeah, but I feel like showing that he wanted to try a little bit.
He's had 3 years. That's a
would
good
be
point.
No, I know.
even if he didn't speak it well enough, but he was willing to try, and I would see the effort. I would appreciate that, but he never did.
Do you want to be in a relationship with him?
I think so.
Not very convincing.
It's just right now I feel really tired. Like you said, I feel like I've been the emotional punching bag for a while.
I mean, what are you going to do about it? I mean, we're kind of going back and forth, and like I'm asking these questions, you're kind of giving me some answers, and I honestly, I feel like I haven't been very helpful.
Well, I've suggested I started going to therapy on Monday myself.
Like literally on Monday, like this week?
Yeah.
Oh, congrats. Okay.
Thank you. But he said he was going to, and now he hasn't. And he said like, oh, I reached out to this one guy, but he's not available. And that was it. And I also suggested couples therapy, and he said, oh, that's a Band-Aid for like a way bigger issue. So I don't think that's going to help right now because I have so much else to do and work on.
That's him. You need to point out you're literally telling me like working on our relationship is not a priority for you. Couples therapy is not a Band-Aid. It's a way to better communicate with each other especially when some people have a hard time communicating on their own, which clearly your boyfriend does. There's no Band-Aid. I mean, it's whatever you want it to be. It's a way to help us, better understand each other and using a professional who's trained to do that. 2 people in a relationship who are having a hard time connecting better connect. And when you say to me you have better or more important pressing issues, it tells me that like working on our connection isn't a priority for you. And I need to know that you care about this relationship. Anyway, your boyfriend is the first boyfriend who's been resistant to couples therapy. So I think you can offer him some grace. And you just started therapy on your own. So I think you can give him a little time to maybe come around and kind of, the fact that you just got into it, lead by example rather than being like, well, I got it and do it. You should start now, especially if he's resistant. Maybe in a while he'll see how it's impacting you, well, hopefully for the better. And then you can keep asking. But the couples therapy comment is a terrible response by him. And maybe maybe we can give him some grace because he just has a false perception of what couples therapy is. But he should never say that he has more pressing issues than to, when you're presenting a way to work on your relationship. Like whether it's couples therapy or like asking him if he has time to do whatever, he can't say to you, well, he can, but he shouldn't be saying to you, I don't have time for that, because he's saying I don't have time for you or us. And that I guess that's kind of my overwhelming point is you got to figure out, does this guy actually have time to be your boyfriend? I'm sure you've heard me say on this show, like this guy likes having a girlfriend, but he doesn't have any interest in being your boyfriend. This is a little different, because but not really. This isn't about him like just being some immature fuckboy or wanting to play video games. But at the end of the day, he has to, if he wants to have a girlfriend, if he wants to be in a relationship, he's got to step up as a partner and have conversations with you about the 2 of you. He's got to be interested in understanding how he can make you feel supported, safe, understood. You have to do the same to him. And everyone who wants to be in a relationship has to do that if they want that relationship to be successful. And anyone who says they want to have a partner, but says they don't have time to hear the other person out, or they're not willing to sit down and talk things through, even if they've tried before. Like, relationships take work. They constantly take work. They will always take work. Yes, you want to be in a relationship where it's not like, oh my God, every day is a fucking challenge with you, but you have to put in the effort. You just do. And if he wants to be in a relationship with you, even if he's still figuring his shit out as a man, he's going to have to like step up and put in the time. And he can't always use his own misfortune and his own unhappiness as an excuse as why he can't be the best possible boyfriend. Because if it is the case, he's basically telling you, I don't have the capacity to be the type of boyfriend that you want. And if that's the case, as sad as it might be, then you shouldn't be in this relationship. I guess that's kind of my point. You guys have to kind of shit or get off the pot. You can't keep having the same conversation over and over. You can't keep making excuses for his behavior. He can't keep coming up with reasons why he can't try. And if you guys are arguing over the same thing, a decision needs to be made. He wants to put an effort to work on you guys, or he doesn't.
But the fact that he said that he wants to.
I don't give a shit about what he says. I care about what he does.
Exactly. How long do you give someone?
Well, you've already given him 3 years. I wouldn't give him much more time. You know, how much time? You're right. How much time do you give someone to want to try? And if your boyfriend tells you he's not interested in trying, I don't think you give him any time.
Well, he said he wants to try, just not in therapy.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What does that mean? Again, back to the questions you should be asking him. What does that mean? Okay, I'm open. All I know is like couples therapy, but do you have any ideas? How can we better understand each other? How can we, what can we do to build our connections? What can I do to make you feel loved and safe and secure? And how can I communicate with you how to make me feel those same too? Like, I think going to someone who specializes in that and those things would be a great option. But if you have other ideas, I'm all ears. He can't just say, I'm willing to try, but I'm not willing to do that. If that's all he's doing, he's not helping. He's just making excuses.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. I've never really asked like follow-up questions.
Yeah. I think with him, getting good at asking him some of these questions, because it sounds like he's very good at debating and arguing with you and being right and Googling shit, and good for him. So ask him questions. All right, fine. You're right. You don't want to do couples therapy? What do you want to do, man? But we need to do something, because what I'm tired of is feeling like we're on two separate pages. And that's the thing. It's like, how does it feel as a partner for him to constantly, for your entire relationship, be talking to you about how unhappy he is, with his it's not your job to make him happy, but like, it's like he's got to give you something to work with. And the success of your relationship can't be based off of your ability to make excuses for why he's not happy or why he's not meeting your emotional needs. It doesn't sound like you're asking for perfect, but he's got to give you something to work with.
Yeah. This was helpful, even though you didn't think it was. It is.
All right. He's got to want to participate in this relationship. He has to want to be your boyfriend. And he's got to show that through his actions. And you have the right to say, this isn't working for me. But clearly you want to make it work with this guy. If you could make it work, you would, but you can only do so much. You can only do 100% of your half. You cannot be happy for the both of you. You can't go to couples therapy on your own. You can't make him be a more empathetic partner. He has to want to do that.
You're right.
And listen, I hope it works out, but you have my permission to break up with him.
At the beginning of this call, I was telling my friend how you never say that. So I was like, I don't think he'll say it.
I tell people to break up with people all the time.
Sometimes, but I feel like even if it's like only when like it's drastic measures. So.
Well, doing the same thing over and over for 3.5 years and not having anything really change is kind of drastic, This whole conversation started by you saying, listen, I've been dating this guy for basically 3 years. We've had some drastic life, we've moved across the world. There's been a lot of changes, but at the end of the day, he's kind of always been the same. And I interpreted some of his behavior early in our relationship to be a product of a situation. But we've been in multiple situations, but the one constant has been him and his attitude, his demeanor, how he approaches life. how he how he makes friends, how he doesn't make friends, how he interacts with me. And so, listen, after 3 years, maybe again, this is just who he is. And if he's not if it's not, then he needs to start showing you pretty quickly that he is willing to do something differently. Because to me, that is kind of drastic. You being in a 3-year relationship and kind of spending 3 years figuring out how to make excuses for him.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's a loser or a piece of shit or anything like that. And clearly he's done some nice things, but you're not looking for a financial support system. You're not looking for someone who just is like there and is your boyfriend. You're wanting a more fulfilling relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the right to ask for that. And he can't keep saying, I promise to work on this without actually offering any real solutions to what he's actually going to work on. And then the few solutions you suggest, he tells you he doesn't have time for.
Mm-hmm.
Pose the question, how can I, what do you want to do? Ask him, what's he want to do? Well, I want to stay together. Why? Why do you want to be with me? And how do you want to work on us? Because can't we agree that we're not in our best place? We're arguing a lot. We're fighting a lot. So how can we change this? I would start there. But he can't keep blowing you off. And it's not your responsibility to fix this relationship on your own while he's busy figuring himself out. Because that's kind of the theme of the relationship. You're worried about your life. You had to make friends, find a new job, and figure out ways to save the relationship. And he's too busy just trying to be happy.
Oh my God. That's so true.
So,
yeah.
And I had to learn a long time ago that you can only do 100% of your half. And I used to be someone in relationships who would try to do 100% of mine and 80% of theirs. And that's not possible. And so you need to get good at setting the boundary with yourself of what is that 100% of that half and what are you willing to do? And where do you have to say, no, that's not my responsibility. That's his. I can't do that for him. I can't want it for him. I can't make him do it. And I can't make excuses for why he's not doing it. And if he says, well, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me and yada, 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 I'll be like, great. But but I still need you to want to be a boyfriend. And this is what I need as a boyfriend. And are you willing to do that? And again, I'm all ears for how I can be a better girlfriend.
Yeah, that's very true. I will take your advice for sure.
All right. Okay. I think we finally were helpful.
We got there eventually.
We got there.
No, I think so.
You're not going to be able to think yourself out of this. And I feel like you're always kind of trying to talk with yourself or talk with your girlfriends or talk, they're like, how do I figure this out? You might just have to make a decision and it might be a hard one. And the ball's in his court, And that's what you have to realize. You're giving him a lot of chances. You're giving him every opportunity. You're still willing to give him an opportunity, but he has to take advantage of the opportunity you're giving him.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, keep us posted.
I will, for sure.
All
Probably
right.
not a whole year of waiting, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One way or another, you should, in a month, either you should not be with this guy or you should feel like there's been some real change in the relationship. Again, he's got to give you, ask yourself in 3 weeks, has he given me anything to work with? Or am I still frustrated over the same things? Are we still fighting over the same things? Are we having the same arguments? Ask yourself, how many solutions have you presented and how many has he turned down? And if at the end of the day, nothing's really changed, then, how many more weeks are you going to, how long are you going to keep doing the same thing? And what do they say about the definition of crazy?
I don't know. What do they say?
Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So,
okay.
All right. So check in with yourself in a couple weeks or a month, or check in with yourself in a month and ask yourself, what's changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Good luck.
Well, thank you so much. And congrats on the baby.
Thank you.
She's gorgeous.
We appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, just remember there are many more behind Viall Files Plus. We appreciate you supporting the show. Subscribe, tell your friends, all the above. We'll see you back on Monday. Bye.
Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.